Hey everyone, and welcome. So, you've been hearing this term cloud native popping up everywhere, right? And maybe you're wondering, where on earth do I even start? Well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down the official starting point from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, the KCNA, which is your very first step into this incredible world. But before we get into the exam itself, let's tackle the big one first. What does cloud native actually mean? It's so much more than just a buzzword. It's a completely different way of thinking about how we build and run software today. Okay, so here's the official definition. The core idea: we stop building software as one giant monolithic thing. Instead, you break it up into these tiny independent pieces called microservices. Then you seal each one inside its own little digital box, which we call a container. And the real magic is orchestrating all of these little boxes automatically, kind of like a super efficient self-managing factory for your code. So with all this complexity, you might be asking, who keeps it all from turning into total chaos? Well, that's where the CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, comes in. Think of them as the guardians of this whole ecosystem. They create the rules and the standards so that all these different tools and projects can actually talk to each other. And we're not talking about abstract ideas here. These are the powerhouse tools that make the whole cloud native thing possible. You've probably heard of Kubernetes, right? The big one, the famous container orchestrator. But it's just one piece of this huge family of projects that handle monitoring, networking, you name it, and they're all looked after by the CNCF. So you look at this huge ecosystem and think, okay, where do I even start? That's why the CNCF created a really clear on-ramp, the Kubernetes and Cloud Native Associate Exam, or KCNA for short. It's literally designed to be your guide to understanding how all of these moving parts fit together. And to make it all manageable, they've broken down the entire curriculum into 4 key areas, or domains of knowledge. So let's walk through that structure right now, because honestly, this is basically your study guide. And this chart, it lays it all out perfectly. You can see the whole exam in a single glance, and more importantly, you see exactly where the focus is. Look at that. Almost half the exam is dedicated to Kubernetes fundamentals. The rest just builds on top of that core knowledge. So let's break down each piece one by one. We're going to start with the biggest, most important section, Kubernetes fundamentals. This is the absolute heart of the exam. It's the foundation that everything else is built on. 44%. Yeah, let that sink in. The message here could not be clearer. If you want to be cloud native, you have to speak Kubernetes. This tells you exactly where you need to spend the majority of your study time. No question about it. So, this section is all about the what and the how of Kubernetes. You'll learn about its core architecture, the basic building blocks like pods that run your containers and services that connect them, and also how Kubernetes is smart enough to schedule all that work across your computers automatically. Okay, next up, container orchestration. This domain takes all those fundamental ideas we just talked about and shows you how to apply them in a much broader, more practical way. At 28%, this is the second biggest piece of the pie. So if that first section was about understanding Kubernetes itself, this one is all about making Kubernetes and your containers work together effectively in the real world. Here, you're really getting into the nuts and bolts. How do containers actually run? How do they talk to each other across a network? How do you lock them down and keep them secure? And, super important, what do you do when things go wrong? These are the day-to-day skills you'll actually use. So, we've got our infrastructure all set up. But how do we actually get our software from a developer's computer into that environment? Well, that's exactly what this third domain, application delivery, is all about. Now, this makes up 16% of the exam, and it focuses on the entire journey of an application. We're talking from the moment the code is written to how it's packaged and shipped, and then how you keep an eye on it to make sure it's healthy once it's live. This means you've got to understand how your app stores data, how to use CI/CD pipelines to deploy them automatically, and critically, the tools and techniques for debugging and observability. How do you even know if your app is running well? This domain has all the answers. And finally, we zoom out. This last section is all about the philosophy, the high-level principles that tie everything we've talked about together. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's only 12%. But please, do not underestimate how important this section is. This part gives you the why behind all the technical skills you learned in the other sections. It's the context that makes all that knowledge really stick. So here, you're going to learn about the core design principles of cloud-native systems. But just as important, you'll learn about the open source community and that collaborative spirit that really drives this entire movement forward. And there you have it, all laid out in one simple table. This is your single slide summary of the entire KCNA curriculum. You can really see the journey here, right? From the deep technical core of Kubernetes to the practical skills of running it to delivering apps and all the way up to the big picture architecture. So really, the big thing to take away from all this is that the KCNA isn't just a breakdown for an exam. It's a structured, expert-designed roadmap. It's a guide for anyone who wants to build a real foundational understanding of this cloud-native world, telling you exactly what you need to learn and in what order. Which, of course, brings us to our final question. And this one's for you. You've seen the map, you know the terrain. The only question left is, are you ready to take that first step?